invite the neighbors so they don't call management on you.
Well, no, we get the connected suites, and then it's.
Then you are the neighbors.
Yeah, and if you get it on the end of the row, then you don't have any neighbor on that end. So usually we just take over a whole floor anyway in the hotel. They just kind of clump us all together because they know we're loud and obnoxious. So that way it's not annoying everybody else. But anyway, so tell us about Queen Bee. I know you've been working on this for a while, so.
I have, yeah. I back in probably the same year that I got handed this bottle, Darren Nagel from Falcon Mead was trying one of my Orange Blossom traditionals, and he looked at me and he says, "What do you mean you're not making this commercially?" And I thought, what? And just so much feedback I've gotten from my club members and anyone I share it with. They're like, yeah, this is great. And so one year when I lost a job, I said, you know what? I'm going to stay home for a while. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to put some time into running the numbers and see what it's going to take and just organize some things so I can hit the ground running when it's time to pull the trigger. And that's what I did about 3-4 years ago now. And then I just decided, you know what, I want a product on the shelf by the time I'm 50. I need to do it now.
Yeah, and that 50 comes up faster and faster every year, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, actually it came up about 4 or 5 months ago. So.
Oh, welcome to the second half, man.
Right, so I've achieved my goal.
Yeah, you have.
So stoked. Yeah.
Ultimatums are good for that.
Yeah, they are. They really are. I remember the year you did the Killer Bee Mead. And I don't know what year that was, late 90s, early 2000s, something like that. And you had gotten your hands on some of the first killer bee honey to come into the country somehow.
Right.
Yeah, and so you were like going around going, killer bee mead. That's great.
Right, so I did make a traditional out of that. It was brought in by the bee folks and obtained at the IMF in 2006. And it had, I kind of wondered if maybe there was a lot of dandelions. I'm not sure what dandelion honey tastes like, but in my mind it would kind of relate to that because it has a little bit of the sourness to it.
Mm-hmm. It had a Chardonnay-like quality to it, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. You gave me a bottle of it, and it's long gone now. But
that's right, yeah, and I've still got. So we'll bust it out next year when you come back up, and
I'll have to see how it survived.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully it's smoothed out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it was new honey that nobody'd worked with too. Nobody'd done anything with it at that point, and it was unknown. So, who knows where those bees go? They're killer bees. They go anywhere.
Yeah, they go where they want.
Yeah, for all we know, they were like
who's going to stop them?
Right. It's like, for all we know, they were like attacking people at the Juju Bee Factory or something.
Yeah.
So, when did you first... I don't know if we ever talked about this, but when did you first come around Mead? When did you first stumble over it?
I first stumbled over it. I had a friend, literally when we were 21, took me to the Ren Fair here in Colorado, and she just knows everybody, and she sees this boy looking across the forest, and she's like, "Hey, so-and-so, stop! Gotta meet this person, and he makes mead." And I'm like, "Really? What's mead?" And he happened to have a Boda bag full of this homemade mead. So I wasn't. And I had some older friends in college that were home brewers, and it sounded pretty intriguing, but I did not even start making beer until 2003. And then the woman who invited me into the club is a mead maker, and she's had some involvement with the Mead Fest as well, and she's like, "Hey, here's my mead," and I'm like, "Oh wow, I haven't had mead in forever." And she started talking to me about it and plying me with her mead, and I'm like, I want to do this. So, yeah, that's how I got started making mead.
Okay, cool. We had just a slight, 2 or 3 second outage there because I think the piece of shit computer is starting to turn into a literal piece of shit.
Oh dear.
Slowly but surely. But yeah, I had to do a quick unplug, replug of the headset. So apologies to anybody listening out there for the 3 second outage. It couldn't be helped. Yeah, I'm going to. I've already decided I'm going to spend half of tomorrow trying to get the Macintosh to connect and make everything work, so that so that it is doing what it's supposed to do. Because I'm pretty sure that's not going to do that. I hope. I've got a what's supposed to be a heavy duty gaming computer that has just been slowly. It really needs to be trashed and completely redone. Reload the operating system and everything, and I just don't feel like taking the time. So it's easier just to try to flip over to the Mac. So who wants to grab the next question?
I was just wondering if you've got a preferred yeast for general use, or if you select it based on the specific must.
Right now I'm getting more specific. I've used the White Lab Sweet Mead yeast for years and really like that one a lot. But if I do Pyment, I'm wanting to use a yeast that's specific to the strain of grapes that I'm using. If I'm doing a sizer, I want to use a cider yeast. So I do jump around with those. But now that I'm commercial, it's a little bit tougher. I don't want to do just the liquid yeast because this can be really expensive. I'm going to have to prop something up, I think. So I've been going a little bit different ways, using the dry yeasts.
Okay.
How are you going with temperature control? What precautions have you got in place there?
Jeez, I'm not. I'm using plastic conicals, and when I started the first round, I was in the upper 60s, and right now I'm kind of low to mid 70s on a good day, and so I'm not making any meads over the summer. I'll start back up again in a month or so. It was advertised to be 69 degrees year round, and that's not happening. It's kind of a tough situation. I'm basically sharing space with my neighbors who are a winery, and they have a rooftop unit on their side, and there's no ductwork into my side. There's just a big passageway in the back of the warehouse to kind of connect us, and so we need some air circulation help with that, I think. But I think maybe if I just kind of save my mead making for the cooler months, I should be okay.
What was it like to make that first big batch? Was it a little crazy, or how did you?
It was scary. I've done one, and I'm making 100-gallon batches. Okay, so they're small in the grand scheme of things. I've made one 100-gallon batch before with a bunch of back in 2007 for the Homebrewers Conference when it was in Denver. But it was a big group effort, and so, trying to figure, okay, well, how am I going to get it into the fermenter? How am I going to mix it? All these things, and so just everything I've got going, I've kind of MacGyvered it all, put it together with the homebrew pieces and parts, and then gone to the big boy toy store and ordered some of their parts and tried to see how I could all make it play together nicely, and it's fun, and it really makes you think. and how to put things together and be technical, and it's a lot of fun.
Right.
So to clarify, you have 100-gallon conical fermenters made of plastic.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
They're very thick plastic. They get used a lot, apparently, in the winemaking industry, and I'd done some research on these before I bought them. And they said, we're not finding anybody having any oxidation issues with these things, and they seem to be pretty well received. So, of course, the downside is that you can't jacket them and cold crash in them very effectively. So that makes things a challenge as well.
You could always,
it's huge.
You could always create some sort of cold space, with like insulated plywood or something like that, and just create a tiny room within your space and run a window air conditioning unit into it.
Right.
Yeah, the window AC equivalent of a walk-in chiller.
Yeah.
Right. And then I've thought about that, and I know you can find some walk-ins for fairly cheap. I also thought about getting just a really small container, because things are pretty popular, and it's like, well, I could put a container in there, roll it in, I'd still have space to stack pallets on top of it. I could roll coolers in and out, or fermenters in and out somehow, or just have them in there and do a transfer into there. And but maybe that's another day.
Yeah, you'd just buy a refrigerated container straight off the shelf, wouldn't you?
I don't know if how they're powered. I haven't done any in-depth research into them. So for now, another one of my challenges in upsizing was to figure out how to get the mead to clarify in a So it's like, okay, well, bentonite and sparklewood, and then you can filter. I tried to filter before I clarified, and that didn't go very well.
That never works.
Yeah, well, see, that's something I never did as a home brewer. I just waited, which is why I got 40 carboys downstairs, is because I've got all the time in the world for my homebrew stuff. So, that was fine to just let it go, and I need to make another batch, and I'll just get another carboy.
Yeah, that's what I've heard is the turnaround time for a professional operation is a lot less than the leisurely homebrew waiting period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's insane, but it's what I'm going to have to do to put a product out there, and it's something that was never my philosophy, was to approach mead making that way. So there's been some definite learning opportunities at every step of the game.
I could imagine. I mean, it seems like you would have, like a ton of. God, my mic is really coming in low. It seems like you would have a ton of just things that you have to work with there, and try to figure out what is going to work, what's not going to work. I mean, like you're saying, and the whole turnaround time thing. I mean, are you gonna filter, or I mean, what's the plan to get it to market in a fair amount of time?
Well, the first 4 batches got bottled just over a week ago, and they did get filtered from a 5 to a 2 micron. So not really fine, but enough to get the sludge out and look pretty. So I do have some smaller filters if I need to go down, which I know a lot of people do use, but I want to see how this works at kind of a less fine level.
Okay. And how many? I mean, you're opening on Saturday. What